Thank you. It's good to be here. Yes, the topic is renewable energy from the oceans. And we have invented a system that we call an underwater kite. We label them dragons. So it's a dragon speech that I'm going to give you. What you see here is an historic picture for us. It is the first time that the commercial generation of systems are towed out to its production site in the Faroe Islands last summer. So we've kept us really busy since then, positioning the company for commercial rollout and to produce electricity to the grid in the Faroes, together with our first customer there, SEV. I'm going to give you a little bit on the market and the potential of this, some words on the technology and also the project portfolio. But first, there is one untapped natural resource left. And that's the kinetic energy in the oceans. We tried with waves to work on the wind-generated energy, but what we're talking about now is lunar energy. It's the gravity from the moon that is pushing the oceans around, and it's the circulation of Earth that creates the ocean currents. And this is a very attractive natural resource to go after, because it's huge, and it is in many ways continuous and plannable. So if we can find a technology that really harvests electricity from this resource, we have a perfect match with solar and wind. We all know that solar and wind is a bit unpredictable. We need storage, we need a lot of compensation systems that are costly. So our role here is to plug this into the global energy system to be able to reach 100% global energy systems. You can imagine there is quite an economic value associated with such an opportunity. And what is it that we do? Yes, this kite is tethered to the seabed, and the continuous movement of the ocean creates a lifting force on the wing. We steer it in a trajectory of an 8 with an onboard control system, and then more or less a conventional power takeoff system with a generator and a turbine on board. It's a spin-out from the aircraft manufacturer Saab, and I think it's quite easy to see sort of similarities in that respect. It is the only solution of its kind in oceans. We have heavy patent portfolios covering the principles and the supporting technologies, but the principle is used, and there are several attempts to use it in air, for instance. So Google has been into this for many years, trying in air. But I can tell you that it's much more convenient to do it in the ocean. Much heavier, and when the flow stops, you will not fall sort of from your height where you are. It works perfectly well in all aspects, all functionality. You can imagine the tide turns, we turn with the tides. When the tide stops, we stop the system, and it's fully automatic in all its modes. It's a system where we've been working on the control system onshore all the way up to the wingtip. So for several years, we have integrated the technologies to match the whole system, and that is what we offer together with solid partners. It is a unique system, but many of the components are standard off the shelf or slightly customized components from leading suppliers to build this unique setup. And this is the exact setup we have in the Faroes. It's difficult to show you pictures because it's in the black ocean, but it's there and it's generating electricity. And it's not only about flying the dragon, it's about taking care of it as well. So the whole support, service, maintenance, logistics aspects of it is something that we worked significantly with over the years. You see some pictures from onshore handling, from logistics transport of the 100 kilowatt machine, and the most important aspect, the ocean logistics, when you tow it in and out to production when you've serviced the system. We use really small boats. We don't need divers. We don't need any sophisticated DP vessels from the offshore sector. And this makes it really robust from a cost perspective in operations, which I must say is this industry's largest hurdle. As an immature, early phase industry, you have to count on short service intervals. And if you can do your service, your inspections, your upgrades cost effectively, you have an enormous advantage in doing that. So what we're flying and generating electricity with the Dragon 4s, the smaller ones. We are also building the first megawatt unit that will go in later this year. It will go into the same site, all consented from an environmental perspective, cabling in place on shore together with the customer. And this is the unit that will be duplicated in underwater parks. And let's see if I can get to the project aspects of it. We've talked about service, and I'll leave that. Before we get to the parks, the most important question asked is, of course, can this be cost effective? Can we afford the transition based on Minesto's Dragons? And I must say that the cost position we have today with small series and rather modest scale of units and parks, we enter the cost curve significantly lower than wind and solar's done by far. So this means with some volumes and some scale-ups of this, we will be on the same level cost-wise as today's renewables. This is driven by low weight of the systems, low material costs, low handling costs, low operational costs related to that. And of course that we have a very heavy medium in water that makes the units smaller than for example, in the wind sector. The case that makes that sort of is the breakthrough case for us is the Faroe Island case. And you can see a comparison. I will not go into details, but that is a wind scenario and a wind and tidal scenario, how to reach 100% renewable energy system, which is their goal. And the cost of storage in the wind scenario is higher than the cost of populating the fjords with our systems. So we have a cost-effective solution, less material used, and a stable system where storage doesn't have to build to any extent at all, basically. So this is the reason why we're there, and this makes us sort of a dominant resource in the Faroes. It's not only about the planability, it's also about being hidden in the waters. That could have been sort of a fully operational site to the right corner. We don't mess with the sceneries. It's very much about security of supply. It took the energy minister in the UK, this is our site and operations in the UK, by the way, it took him several years to come to our office. We've been running around in the corridors in Westminster for years. But after the 24th of February last year, we had them knocking on our doors, talking about speed up of implementations. Also together with industry, we're working together with salmon farm and aquaculture in the Faroes. There's a global potential around this. No one wants today in sort of the high-end segment of sashimi, for instance, want anything that smells diesel, which is the case for most fish farming. So that's a perfect match for us. And the project rollout, you can imagine the Faroe Islands, 50,000 people, 70,000 sheep. It's not sort of a big market. But even this small market with 100 megawatts, the project investment is around 1.8 to 2 billion Swedish kronor, and half of that is sales for Minesto. And then you can add a tenth of that yearly in service hardware and operations that we offer. So even if this is a small 100 megawatt market, it's more than enough for a small company to really make a successful breakthrough commercially. It is very safe, in harmony with nature. We have over the years worked with several universities, authorities, and it's simply so that the mammals that might sort of be in harm's way, they simply avoid it when it is in operation. There's plenty of room on top of it, under it, and in between the units for the mammals to navigate safely. It is about two markets. It's about potentially fish farming integration, small islands where we can generate with the unit we have today, and then we talk about the large underwater parks. And what we've identified today, the sites we're working with and with our local partners in several of those markets, you can see that there is quite a significant growth from from the 1 billion SEK market in the Faroes, add a zero and yet another zero, just for the 2030 perspective, moving this technology forward. The global potential is around 600 gigawatts, which is then larger than the nuclear capacity on Earth today. So there's quite some work to be done to populate in this sense. We are in many areas, and it's not like we're trying to sort of penetrate all markets with a development company budget, but we have strong partners on local markets that do the site development for us. So when the stars are aligned, that market is sort of a priority candidate for next build-out. For example, Taiwan, where we're working with one of the largest renewable energy project developers, Taiwan Cement. In Taiwan, they recently announced a feed-in tariff that is the highest in the world. Suddenly, Taiwan becomes one of the sites where we now push for a build-out quicker than some of the other sites. Southeast Asia is huge for us. It's also the area where we need to do most on this planet to fix the fight against climate change. Brown coal and diesel, very difficult with a lot of islands and distributed generation needed. That's where the match is the best for us. We work with partners, strong global partners, and this list should be added with several more already. And I think that's a clever way for us to really get the commercial wheels turning. The smallest utility in the world and potentially the largest on the left and the right here. So to summarize this, the technology is unique, protected, and directly linked to competitive advantage. The market that we can address with this is huge. Nuclear scale globally. We have a project pipeline that we are pushing forward and extending. And with the cost position we have, the lightweight systems and clever installation procedures, we will be able to really be an affordable alternative in this energy transition. And I think that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Very exciting. You mentioned that you had a big portfolio in terms of patents.
Yes.
But do you have competitors, and who are they?
We have, in this sector, I mean, over the years, there are more than 100 actors and companies, but they all work with more or less submerged windmills. So they have a niche market to address. It's very heavy systems, and they need a lot of flow in the water.
So they're basically anchored to the seabed.
They are positioned as sort of a stationary windmill on the seabed or in big floating structures. So they weigh about 10 to 20 times more than our systems.
On that note, in terms of anchoring, and I'm thinking of permits. What kind of permits do you need to maneuver these Minesto dragons underwater?
Well, you need sort of a license for the seabed, and you need environmental permits, and then you might need marine licenses, and you need to sort of be aligned with sea traffic and the naval chart production and so forth. So it's a whole package of consenting work needed to get a site sort of as an asset for the company.
But if you compare this consenting to getting a wind power stationary on land or in water, what are we looking at here in timeline?
I'd say since it's a new industry, there are sort of early phase challenges to get everyone aligned with the risks and so forth. But the huge advantage compared to solar and wind is mainly that we're not disturbing the view and we're not occupying land and we don't make any noise. So we've had very good collaboration with local actors in a way that I think the wind industry just can dream of in that respect.
In terms of suitable locations, you pointed out from a more, I think it was more from a financial aspect, but are there waters that are less current, better positions, etc.? Are there waters that are completely unsuitable?
There are large areas of the oceans that are not suitable for this. But if you look at the globe, all coastlines and all major continents have substantial resources.
Because it's also a matter of transmission, transmitting the energy, and also the cost of that transmission, of course. Yeah. So the closer you are, the cheaper it will be to
Oh, yes, and most of the resources are closer to shore where the water gets shallow or in between islands. But it is one of the most important, let's say, business enabling activities to locate really good sites. And that's why we're going a bit broad, because we want to start where the sites match the current sort of dragon sizes we have. So the big one I showed you here is, for a longer perspective, a small one. That's a 12-meter wingspan. But when we go for the Indonesian through flow, for instance, there are 300-400 meters deep, so we have a lot of maneuvering space. So we will talk about wingspans of 30-40 meters.
Well, this sounds very exciting indeed. Thank you very much, Matti. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.